All right, it's been a while and I'm gonna just go off the cuff, no script, just cause I wanna get this out there. And recently I've been sort of like in a weird state where I'm not really posting, but at the same time I want to. So it's like always a debate in my head, and if I make it too difficult to make, it's just not gonna get out there. So here's my video about the recent travel trip that I just went to. It was to Singapore, Bali, and Taiwan. And all of this was in the time span of about, I'd say 17 days. Crazy times for me. It's definitely the best travel trip I've ever been on. And I wanna basically highlight like how traveling to those places and like what happened in those places essentially has saved me, at the same time like changed like the way I view life essentially. Not like in such a romanticized, dramatic way, but more so just like to give context. Before the whole trip, I was feeling very, very down. I sort of had like a falling out with some friends, and not gonna go into detail, but essentially, I've never really had that before, which is kind of crazy because I'm in my late 20s and not having like a big like almost friend breakup type of thing ever until like this age is kind of crazy. Like, I'm very, very grateful for it, but like having felt it, it feels really, really bad. And I was in that for 1 to 2 months, and it was another reason why it felt so hard to like actually make a video. It felt hard to do a lot of things actually, and my mind always just wandered back to, you know, what happened and the issues and all that stuff. So I felt very, very down, very, very sad at times, but having traveled like got me out of that funk. And the first destination was Singapore. I flew out and got to stay at my friend's place. I'm super, super grateful like that I got to do that, because I think it made the entire experience so different for me. Because some of my other college friends eventually, like, to give more, I guess, backstory is, this was for my friend's wedding, essentially. One of my close friends from Occidental, that's the college I went to, and I was there to hang out with her before she got married in Bali. And the whole week before that, like, it was a week of Singapore and then a week of Bali and then just a few days in Taiwan. So the week in Singapore was really, really fun. The week in Bali was amazing, and then Taiwan was sort of the cool down. But for Singapore, like, I didn't really have a plan, and I think that's one of the lessons I learned is, like, for traveling, at least if you're gonna do it with other people and you're doing it like almost to see them, like to hang out with them, like there doesn't need to be a really, really set itinerary. At least for me, with my experience, I found that actually having leeway and sort of just the freedom to do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, made it a better trip overall, because like, oh, we can last minute plan to do an escape room or go bouldering, and those are 2 activities we did. We could do that anywhere actually, but it was still fun to do it like together in Singapore, because that's not what I'm used to. It was my first time going to Singapore. So it was just like exploring Singapore. I also, funny enough, I used ChatGPT to give me some suggestions for what to do for 4 days. The other sort of days were planned by my friend, and we just did stuff with either her family or with her friends. And those were some of the most fun days to me as well. So I guess in those circumstances, you don't necessarily have to like plan too much. Like the travel trip itself, having freedom and just flexibility makes it like fun. But again, like, it's kind of very circumstantial. Like, I'm very lucky to have a friend that lives in Singapore who's willing to let me stay and just experience so many cool things. I will say, just for Singapore itself, some of the highlights were Clarke Quay, the river tour. I really enjoyed that one. I did it like right before, I did it around sunset basically, and it was just like extremely beautiful to see the whole place go from like day to night during the river cruise. That was definitely a super awesome experience. Another one was Gardens by the Bay. That one's like very famous, so I probably don't need to mention it, but it was definitely one of the most unique sights I've ever seen like in my life. So definitely check that out. And then another one, this one was more so just like not really the place, but just like one of the highlights was I ended up bumping into a friend that I actually made on the first day of Singapore, thanks to, it's like a mutual friend of my friend that got married. And we ended up bumping into each other by coincidence at a hawker center. That's also another like suggestion that Singaporeans usually tell you, is to check out the hawker centers and eat there. Honestly, for me, it was really, really hot and humid. I think Singapore is always humid, so at least that's what my friends tell me. I went during the summer, so maybe it's even more hot and humid, but hawker centers are outdoors, and I was definitely suffering. But I bumped into that mutual friend, and like we ended up just hanging out that night. Like she showed me around at night, which I will say Singapore at night is probably much cooler than it is during the day, temperature-wise, and also like just the lights and everything. That was awesome. Like just getting shown around by a local, that's like something that you don't really get to do too often, and that was one of the most fun experiences for sure. And the McDonald's at Singapore, that was also pretty cool. Like they're really well designed compared to like and clean compared to the American ones. I live in California, so those were just some random asides for Singapore. I really, really enjoyed like that aspect of it. Like just go. I also traveled alone a lot. I had like a short video in Japan where I mentioned, I really enjoy traveling alone, because it's like, you get flexibility, freedom, you can do whatever you want. But I think more so I started discovering things about myself during this trip. And one of the things was, I don't necessarily enjoy traveling alone or prefer it more than traveling with other people. I think the perfect balance for me is being able to travel with the right people. And when I say right people, I essentially just mean like people that like aren't gonna like hold you back, be like, I want to do certain things that I don't want to do, like shop too much, all that stuff. So it's not necessarily like, there's wrong or bad people that you shouldn't travel with. It's more so like you sort of have to know what you like when you travel, and ideally you travel with someone who also likes doing the same things. So you go at the same pace, you do the same activities, all that stuff basically. So for me, traveling alone, I enjoyed it. But at the same time, I found myself thinking a lot like, this would be really nice if I were with someone else, or if I like had a friend to do this with at this moment. Because I did travel a good amount by myself in Singapore. Like I visited the zoo, Singapore Zoo, night safari, river safari. The river tour was on my own. I ate a lot of nice, good sushi on my own as well. Like they put something called like mentai on it, which I don't really see too much in California, and it tastes really good when that sauce is added. So that's like something I noticed that Singapore does that California doesn't do as much. So definitely check out sushi in Singapore. But those things that I did alone, like I enjoyed doing it, but I think it would have been enhanced had I been doing it with someone else. So that's just something I learned about myself, is that I prefer to travel with the right people versus alone. But I still enjoy that flexibility and sort of like you go at your own pace of traveling alone. So it's sort of like pros and cons from both sides. So that's something I learned about myself, but I definitely have been talking all over the place. Let's just get back to the moral of the story, I guess. What really got me out of the funk to begin with, like traveling, first of all, it brings you into a new environment. And I think new environments really help stimulate different thoughts, like different feelings, and just discomfort in a way, but like almost good discomfort that gets you to stop thinking about the other things, that forces you to sort of look at your life in a different way and just experience things in a different way. And I think that's what really got me out of it at first. And then just like continuing to do it and continuing to like just have a really, really good time with friends and get to meet a whole bunch of new people. I think starting when we traveled to Bali is when I got to meet, I got to meet a lot of new people in Singapore as well, but in Bali is when I got to hang out with them. Cause like the wedding took place in like a villa, and a lot of people who were gonna attend the wedding were at the villa. So we just like hung out a lot. And that gave me a lot of time to get to know different people. And I discovered, I mean, I sort of knew this already, but I discovered more so that I sort of thrive in the environment where I get to talk to new people and meet new people and just hang out with them and do things with them, because it allows me to just learn their perspective, which helps me reflect back on like how I think about things. And when I get to like tell them about certain life experiences and then they give their thoughts on what I just told them, it helps me absorb a new perspective and sort of like see things in a different way and get out of the way I usually see things. And for this certain instance, not that I really told them about it was just more so just like experiencing what they experience and seeing how I was just stuck in my own head, how I just thought about, you know, what happened to like the recent events that made me feel sad. Like those events seem a lot less impactful, less like hurtful, less like I inflated it in my head. I made it such a huge thing and it didn't need to be, essentially. And living the experiences I did while traveling helped me realize that, helped me like expose that sort of truth in myself that I don't need to let it take over or let it like consume my feelings and thoughts. So in a way, like just traveling and doing that, it really saved me from those thoughts. It really saved me from constantly feeling that like sadness, essentially. So that's just a huge thing I feel that the travel trip helped me with. And also the fact that these events surrounded a wedding for my close friend, like my close friend's wedding. That helped a lot too, because the whole atmosphere, the whole mood of the entire trip was centered around that. And it just made things that much more emotional and emotionally charged, and in a good way. Like it made me feel like happy, like super happy for my friend, like seeing that and like getting to participate in it. Like I also helped out in like a lot of the events, like the tea ceremony and all that stuff. And they didn't necessarily ask me to, I just wanted to. And I just felt like I just felt super happy for her. Like it's so hard to describe. Like this is the first time a close friend has gotten married, and like the feelings that you get seeing like someone you care about experience something like so like happy, I guess. It's just great. Like it's amazing. It's like a feeling that like no other, basically. So getting to experience that really helped as well. And it opens your heart and your mind to like your own life and how like you want to live it and how you just want to like move forward and do things in a new and better way. And that's sort of what I'm trying to do now that I'm back in California. But just to close off the travel trip experience, like Taiwan was definitely really cool. Like, I mean, it was hot and humid as well, similar to Singapore. Bali was much nicer in terms of weather because we were always near the beaches. And any like events that we did were kind of indoors. I didn't mind that. I probably didn't experience Bali in the way like that. I probably didn't experience Bali. Like I experienced hanging out with my friends and going to wedding events and the events that the wedding hosted. So it was like a lot of nice places basically. And I probably need to go back to Bali to actually experience Bali itself. But basically the weather, the climate, it just wasn't as hot. But Taiwan, super hot and humid and kind of a little, I think it rained one of the days, but not much actually when I went, luckily. So the experience itself was more like a cool down, like that travel experience for Taiwan. Luckily we had a friend who, he doesn't live in Taiwan, but he goes there like every year because he has family there. So he knows the place. He took us around and he could speak the language, which none of us could. It was just a couple of us, like 4 friends. So it was fun. It was fun. But definitely not as crazy as Bali and Singapore for me. But it was nice to just have like a cool down, just like, oh, the wedding has passed now, and just chill. Basically, it was a much more chill trip. One of the days we literally just hung out in one of the hotels for like 4 hours because we were all feeling tired. That was like, I think the last day before we flew out. But good experiences either way. And it's just great to see like old friends because they were college friends. It's been a while since I've seen some of them. And just meeting a lot of new people and having meaningful conversations with them, and still talking to them now as well. Just having made new friends that I feel I will continue to build a relationship with, a friendship with, and just it's really, really nice to have that. I feel like I don't get too many opportunities to form friendships in that way, especially when the setting is just perfect, like the wedding setting, you know? So those were some of the things that happened in the whole travel trip, and just like I wanted to express these feelings basically, and just update, like talk to the camera again. It's just been a very long time since I've done so, and I definitely feel like I am like out of the funk that I was in before the trip. Like I just feel like completely different. So I guess in a way, me telling this story, or just sharing my experiences and thoughts and feelings, hopefully, like say for instance, you're feeling something similar to how I felt, like you're in a funk, you're just in a place where you feel static and you want change. I think having a travel trip, or just connecting with friends or with new people, just any of the things that I highlighted that really helped me, perhaps it can help you too. Like I can't say that, oh, this will help everyone feeling this, who was in the same position that I was, but perhaps it can. And that's just like something to think about, I suppose. And I think that's pretty much it. I definitely stumbled through this whole thing, but I just feel like I wanted to at least get it out and just talk to the camera again, since it's been forever. And I'm not entirely sure where I want to take this in terms of like, do I want to still do the whole monthly thing? I have a lot of projects that I feel invigorated to try out and do, but maybe once in a while I will just like talk to the camera and just upload it, like not worry about the edits and not worry about like how amazing the final product is, because this isn't my priority right now. I'd say my priority, I don't want to mention it yet. I just want to just like drop it, reveal it. It's definitely going to be one of the biggest things I've done for sure. And just I've basically always wanted to do certain things, like accomplish the projects I'm like working on right now. So I just want to get it done and have it be like, okay, I can say that I finally did it, and just move forward from there. So that's the next step in this whole like journey, essentially. So that is the update. That is like, I guess I haven't uploaded for the past like few months. So that is essentially where I've been and where I'm at now. So hopefully you can get some sort of insight from everything that I've talked about throughout this video. If you did, go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.